In our last video, we took care of the raiders that had been harassing Vault City after discovering their location inside John Bishop's safe. It was then we realized that the Bishop family had hired mercenaries to pose as raiders to attack Vault City until Vault City joined up with the NCR. That's not gonna happen now. On our way back to New Reno, we were contacted by Hakunin. Arroyo is in desperate need. We've got to finish up our business at New Reno so we can continue our search for the Gek. But I'm not one to leave things unfinished. We still have one family left to meet at New Reno, and that's the Wright family, who occupy the eastern side of town. Heading east from the Shark Club, we arrive on a street going between two large buildings. The top building is a pre-war train station. We see the train tracks going by along the northern side. Looks like there was an outside seating restaurant or bar attached to the building. Heading inside, we can see what the place is now. We find a door to a small room in the southwestern corner of the train station. Inside, we find a young woman. Better take off. No offense, she says, but Dad doesn't like tribals much. That's right. We remember hearing the gossip from the other families that the Wright family bred like rabbits. This must be one of their daughters. Next to her must be one of her brothers. Just keep your distance, he says. If you've got business, do it, then get out. Friendly bunch, these Wrights. There's a desk in the middle of the room. If we sneak by to loot it, inside we find shotgun shells and some money. Then, inspecting the bookcase, if we sneak up and loot it, we find some booze and beer. Going through the eastern door, we arrive at the train station waiting area. And look at all of these people. These must all be the Wright children. They share a lot of the same dialogue. One of the boys says, if you're looking for alcohol, head on over to the train station in the north part of town. We don't sell it here. We are at the train station, so this must just be recycled dialogue. But then we see a man wearing blue pants. Yeah, he says. Who are you, we can say. And he says, I'm Chris Wright, of the Family Wrights. Glad you asked. Family Wright? Who's that, we can ask. And he says, you ain't heard of the Family Wright? You must have been out in the desert too long. Family Wright is the biggest crime family in Reno. We're gonna rule this city. But we know better than that. Actually, the chosen one can say, I got the impression they were one of the weakest of the families. I mean, they only deal in alcohol. They have no casino or chem trade, and their numbers are much less than other families. That a joke? Says Chris. If so, it damn well missed the funny mark by a mile. You trying to start something with Family Wright? Turning this entire family hostile is not productive, so instead we'll say, oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Well, it sounds like the Family Wright holds all the cards, we can say, trying to butter this guy up. Are they hiring? And he says, well, I mean, the Wright family, my family, might have an opening. I ain't promising nothing, but go to the mansion south of here, find my brother Keith, and tell him I sent you. Name's Chris Wright. We'll go south to the mansion in a minute. First, we can head through the northern door, whereupon we find a staircase. Heading down to the basement, we find the Wright family's brewing stills. The vats work tirelessly, going thum and and we learn that the Wright family employs slaves. Talking with one of them, once you learn your new master's needs, the beatings become less frequent, he says. We can loot each of the tables down here for booze. If we do, we walk away with quite a stash, and the family doesn't seem to mind. Master is good. He does not beat me often. If we explore behind some barrels in the southeastern corner, we find a cooler, and inside, a whole bunch of tools, more rubber boots, and a cat's paw magazine. Now to see if we can get some work from this family. Heading south, we see a bunch of the Wrights' younger children playing in the dirt by a truck. These kids are key to assassinating the leader of the Wright family in a covert, silent way. But we'll tackle that in a bit. Heading towards the mansion, we can walk past the guards. I'm watching you, so you watch what you do here. Inside, we arrive in a large living room. The living room is flanked on either side by a series of bedrooms. In the southwesternmost one, we find a young man. You better not have brought any chems or else Dad'll kill you. Then I'll kill you, he says. Looks like this family is really sensitive to chems. In one of the bookshelves, we find a shotgun, some shotgun shells, and a lighter. And in the southern dresser, we find a leather jacket, a 10mm pistol, 10mm ammunition, and some money. In the room directly above us, we find one of the daughters and a young boy. The lad stops and looks at you. "Hey there, little girl," we can say. "Kyle's got the squirts," he says. "Really? What else?" we can ask. "Mikey and Marie sitting in a tree, Kissing," which becomes really disturbing when we remember that everyone here is related to each other. Ugh. We can ask this kid the same question over and over again, and he has a number of responses. Mommy's down by the church again. Kyle drinks his own pee. Our family is the best. Daddy says we got to be careful when we go outside. I saw Mikey kissing Marie Mardino. Okay, it was a girl from another family. Well, that's good. He sticks out his tongue. Poopy head, poopy head. Pfft. Daddy said he'd whip us if he ever caught us taking jet. I never see Christopher anymore. Milk, milk, lemonade, around the corner fudge is made. Ugh. You're it. Mommy's been really sad since my brother Richie died. Oh no, one of the brothers died? You got cooties. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. I want to be a whore when I grow up. Daddy says we need more of them. What the heck, man? What? I wish Christopher would play with me. Daddy'll whip us if we sneak out again. Father Tully is funny when he can't walk straight. Yeah, we met good old Father Tully. He's quite the character. Mommy was crying the other day. I think it's 'cause what happened to my brother Richie. Land Rover, send Kyle on over. Shriek! Uncle Nick says cussing isn't necessary. Uncle Nick needs to get out more. Want to play tribals and slavers? I miss my brother Richie. He died 'cause he took too much jet. Oh, so that's how Richie died. And I suppose that explains why their father is so opposed to chems. I made a poo-poo. Thanks. Daddy's doing business again. Daddy's been really mad since my brother Richie died. Well, that was a surprisingly informative conversation. Heading out, we can move into the next room, above this one. It's empty, but we can loot the containers. In the left bookshelf, we find money and a knife, and the right one is empty. Then, in the northwestern room, we find a woman by herself. We can examine these containers first. In the dresser, we find some leather armor, more rubber boots, and a knife. And in the bookshelf to the left, we find a 10mm pistol, some money, and a lighter. Talking with the woman, we learn that this is Mrs. Wright. Mrs. Wright jumps. Oh my, you gave me such a fright. She squints at us. Well, hello again. It's funny. It's the first time we've talked. Who are you, we can say. She says, me? Why, I'm Mrs. Ethel Wright, head of the Temperance Union here in New Reno. She studies us. And who might you be? Temperance Union, we can ask. And she says, oh my, you're a tribal, aren't you? Your accent gave it away. She raises her voice and starts speaking slowly. Well, may I be the first to welcome you to our city. What you say? Me simple tribal, no understanda you are. I said, let me, she points to herself, welcome you, she points to us, to, and she gestures to the city all around her. City of Lights. Instead of leaving, we can say, woman, I am neither deaf nor stupid. I can understand you quite well without you raising your voice. Oh, she says, excuse me. She seems startled. Pardons. It's just that I thought, well, never mind. Let's put that all behind us. What can I do for you? I had some questions about New Reno, we can say. And she says, so what are these questions you have? You were saying about the Temperance Union before, we can again ask. And she says, why, yes. And she wags her finger at us. New Reno is a beautiful city, but there is sin here, much of which can be traced back to the evils of alcohol, or as you tribesmen call it, and she pauses dramatically, fire water. Ignoring that for now, we can say yes, but what about this temperance union? She just rambles on. The temperance union was established to help people turn away from the poison of drink and turn towards more hard-working pursuits. Oh, we can say, well, how about New Reno can't exist on gambling and alcohol and prostitution and expect to survive? Oh no, she says, not while Ethel Wright is at the helm, it won't. No siree. Who is all in your organization, we can ask? And she thinks for a moment. Well, good Father Tully for one. Good Father Tully, whom we've met, member of the Temperance Union. Okay, I believe it. The chosen one can say, Father Tully is the worst consumer of fire water that I've ever seen. I almost got drunk just from the vapors. Now you listen here, she says with a frown. I'm not going to tolerate that kind of slander. The good father has had his struggles with alcohol, but through the help of the union, he has fought for his soul and triumphed. It's not slander, we can say. It's just that the great spiritual leader of New Reno is about as healthy as, well, the city itself. Humph, she says. Of all the crass rudeness, if you see me again, you had best simply pass by in silence. That's the plan, we can say. But if we choose this path, she refuses to talk with us ever again. Exploring the rest of her dialogue, we can say, but people like gambling, drinking, and whoring, says the chosen one. I know I do. She looks shocked. Surely you are mistaken. Even a primitive tribal such as yourself can't seriously mean the by the balls of the sky spirits. Yes, says the chosen one. I myself like to indulge in all three of those sins. Nothing like a little communal love, some gambling, and rounding off the day with a few jugs of fermented mare's milk. That's what makes being a tribesman so great. By Richard Milhouse Nixon and his mother, says Ethel. I don't know what practices you tribespeople follow in your dens of iniquity, but in New Reno, things are changing. We are a civilized people. And the chosen one can point out, we have none of the evils you mention in my village. Maybe we could teach you civilized people some things. But if we choose this path, she again shuts down dialogue and refuses to talk with us anymore. So, instead of purposefully torquing her off, we can focus on her family. Going back, we can say, you're Richard's mother, right? I heard he passed away recently. And her smile dies. Yes, my son Richard, he left us much too soon. Yes. She looks at her hands. But the chosen one can press on. I heard it was a jet overdose. Is that right, we can say? And her jaw tightens. That filthy poison. I thought that I'd taught him to stay away from that stuff. And then, can you tell me where he might have gotten the jet, we can say? I don't know, she says, and her hands clench into fists. They sell that poison on every corner here in New Reno. Everywhere you go, they're peddling it. Do you know any specific dealers, we can ask? And she says, not by name. They know enough to run when they see me coming, but they cluster like flies along Virgin Street, at the front of town, and outside the casinos. All right, so it looks like we need to follow up with some of the jet dealers in town to see which of them sold jet to young Richard. Your husband's head of family, Wright, correct, we can ask? And she says, why, yes, he is. And she squints at us again. I'm sorry, do you know my husband? Not personally, we can say, but I know the Wrights control the distribution of alcohol in New Reno. And she frowns. Now, what is this foolishness you're speaking of? Alcohol distribution in New Reno? I know my husband is inclined to drink, but he is breaking the habit. Ethel, we can say, in case you hadn't noticed, your husband is the leader of a crime family that sells alcohol to all of New Reno. Tossing one back now and then is perhaps the least of his crimes. Why, my goodness, she says, of all the cheek! And she takes a deep breath. That is a very serious accusation, young man. I realize that, ma'am, but... And she puffs up. Perhaps it is standard practice in your tribes to slander others in public, but here in New Reno you have some sand coming up to me in public and speaking ill of my husband. Look, all I'm saying is... No, you look! It's no secret that in the past, my husband had a private still in the city. Nonetheless, he swore it was for his own use only. And at my request, he has dismantled it. But we've been to the basement of the train station, and we know that that's not true, so we can say, oh, really? Well, maybe you... Furthermore, she continues, he has resolved to help me and any other unfortunate reliant on alcohol break the habit. Shameful! To even suggest my husband was selling the alcohol to others is... And we can say, look, if you don't believe me, check out the Reno train station. You'll see what I mean. She frowns and puts her hands on her hips. I will look into it, you can rest assured. And if I find that you are wrong, you had best leave this town. Meet me at the church tomorrow morning, and we will speak again. All right, Mrs. Wright. I will. See you then, we can say. And with that, she marches off to stew about things for a bit. Well, what a lovely gem she turned out to be. Can't wait to meet the rest of this family. Moving out and into the kitchen, we see more Wright children milling about. Don't even think about causing any trouble, one says. We Wrights outnumber you by a lot. Where are you from? Ain't seen your kind around here in a while, another says. Moving into the dining room, we see more Wright children and a number of containers, most of which are too close to the kids to loot without turning everyone hostile. In one, we find a stack of ammunition and a stim pack, and then we can talk with the guy holding the gun in the middle of the dining room. I don't know you, he says. My dad don't know you, and if you don't start explaining, it ain't gonna matter. Who are you, we can ask. I'm Keith Wright, he says, of the Wright family. Now you gonna tell me what you're doing here? Well, what is this place, we can say. And he says, this is the family Wright house. Now, you gonna tell me what you're doing here? Well, I'm looking for a job. Is family Wright hiring? And he says, now, we don't hire muscle like the other families. At least, not now. You better get. But then we can say, look, Chris sent me by. Chris, your brother, we talked to him at the train station. Is family Wright hiring? And he says, Chris sent you, huh? That's right, we can say. He said you might have some work for me. Now, hold on, says Keith. He knocks on the door behind him. Pa? He sticks his head in. There's some mumbling. Then he comes back and nods at the door. You can go in, but watch out. Dad's in a pissy mood. Oh, thanks, we can say. Heading inside, we can talk with Orville Wright. Wrinkles cover this man's face. It looks like any expression other than a scowl is foreign to him. Only a few brown hairs are left in his thick gray hair. Start talking, tribal. Who are you, and what do you want? The name's Oxhorn. I'm interested in a job. No crap, and he sneers. Well, pleased to meet you, Oxhorn. Glad you stopped by. Damn neighborly of you. His sneer crumbles into a frown. Looking for work in family Wright, huh? Yes, so happens my family is family Wright. Blood thicker than water and all. And he scowls. What makes you think I'd want tribal trash like you in my family? I got all the hitmen I need. Give me a test then, we can say. Let me prove myself. He studies us for a moment. All right. Maybe you not being in the family could be a good thing. And his scowl fades. You got children? Not to my knowledge, we can say. One of my sons, my boy Richard, passed away recently. Chem overdose. Jet. How can I help, we can say. I want to know what dealer gave that crap to Richard and forced him to take it. Every time I send my boys to find out, they turn up nothing. Maybe someone who got Wright blood could get some answers. They forced him to take it, we can say? And Orville Wright's face turns red. My boys are clean, and they know to stay away from that stuff, or I'll kill them. Then suddenly Richie ODs. Someone pumped a ton of jet in him, so much that fumes was running out of his nose. Well, says the chosen one, that doesn't mean someone else is responsible. Your son could have taken too much. Jet is highly habit-forming. Mr. Wright's face breaks into a snarl and he starts shouting, Boys, we got a visitor looking for a plot of land in Golgotha. Get in here. Whoa, now hold on, we can say. Gonna feed you to the dogs, he says. And with that, the entire Wright family turns hostile. They're not much in a fight, but I'd still like to do their quests. So instead of insinuating that his son might have willfully taken Jet, we can say, I'll take the job. And Orville Wright nods. All right then. Now look, you find that son of a gun who killed my boy. Don't you touch him. You just come back and tell me the dead man's name. His eyes blaze. I'll take care of it from there. Any leads we can ask? And his eyes blaze. No. Everybody's too scared to talk. To a Wright, anyway. If I were you, I would question some of the Reno chem pushers. See what they know. That jet came from somewhere. All right, find the person who gave him the jet. Don't hurt him. Just come back and tell you. Got it. And again, Orville Wright is sending us to talk to the jet dealers of New Reno. We see a wall safe in this room, and it's locked. If we try to pick it... Oh, we set off a trap. But no one turns hostile. Okay, we'll just try this again. While picking the lock, we can overhear Orville talking to himself. I wonder if our marriage is legally binding, he says. Ooh, not everything's roses in the Wright family. Wouldn't know it from the number of kids he has. Inside the safe, we find a frag grenade, some shotgun shells, stim packs, a first aid kit, and of course, some alcohol. Heading outside, we can check in with Keith. What do you want now, he says. Can you tell me about your brother Richard, we can ask. And he says, good kid. Damn, if we ever find out who done it to him. Any ideas who might have done it, we can ask? A lot of other families sell jet. Could have been any of them, he says. Mordino's got the most jet dealers, though, because they make the most jet. Me? I'm betting it was one of them. What dealers do you suspect, we can ask? Bunch of them, he says. Jagged Jimmy J on 2nd Street, that old son of a gun Renesco in the West End, and Jules deals too at the front of town, but mostly to dumb tourists. Then there's little Jesus Mordino. Little Jesus Mordino, we can say. He's Big Jesus' son, says Keith. A bastard, more like. He might have caught Richard alone, then pumped him full of jet out of spite. You looking for him, check out the Desperado. Little Jesus hangs out there with the old man. If we have high enough intelligence, we find a dialogue option to say, what can you tell me about Richard? Quiet kid, says Keith. Clean kid. Kept out of trouble. And for a Wright, that's something. We buried him on the Golgotha Plains a while ago. But even so, Mom still don't want his room disturbed. It's hard for her to let go, you know? Which room was his, we can ask. Do you think your mother would mind if I looked in there? His room, says Keith. It's the empty one next to Mom's room. The second one down from the kitchen. As for looking around, well, look, don't stay long. And don't mess the place up, or Mom will pop a clip if she finds out. Thanks, Keith. I won't be long, we can say. So the room just below Ethel's room. We already explored that room, but at the time we weren't looking for signs of foul play. Heading back, we can give the room a more thorough examination, inspecting the bookshelf again, and if our perception is high enough, the chosen one sees something new. Hey, I found an empty jet canister beneath the dresser, he says. We found a clue behind the dresser in the Wright mansion. What, not a lead pipe in the billiard room? And we gain 500 experience points. Checking our inventory, there it is, empty jet canister. This empty jet canister was found in Richard Wright's room. It still has traces of jet inside. Well, I wonder what we can do with this. Heading out, we can move west to track down and interview the New Reno chem dealers. We'll start by chatting with Jagged Jimmy J, he's the closest, standing right outside the jungle gym. While talking with him, we find an option to say, do you know who gave that Wright kid the jet that killed him? And he says, so now it comes out, does it? You want to know if old Jimmy got something to do with that, huh? No, I was just asked. Screw you, says Jagged Jimmy J. I sell clean stuff. You want to know who poisoned that Wright kid? You go ask that old fool Renesco or that weasel Jules, and you see what they say. Okay, calm down. You listen, he continues, and you listen good. If I hear you were talking crap about me having anything to do with that Wright kid's death, I'll make sure you have a grave in Golgotha right next to him. Okay, fine, but Jagged Jimmy J, you know anything about this empty jet canister? Jagged Jimmy J takes the canister and studies it. He sniffs the nozzle, then frowns. Key rap! This jet's got red scorpion juice in it. Whoever was sucking on this ain't long for this world. And he slowly hands the canister back. It's poisoned? We exclaim. Hell yeah, says Jagged Jimmy J. Gotta be careful in this town with crap like that being passed around. That's why Jimmy always says, look, any idea where this might have come from, we can ask? And he says, no, I don't. Look now, don't be spreading the word that's mine. If I were you, I'd ask Jules or Renesco about it. But you didn't hear that from me, right? Renesco and Jules, huh? I'll ask them about it. Thanks for the tip, Jagged Jimmy J. Well, which one? Renesco or Jules? We'll start with Jules. He's pretty close. Heading south down Virgin Street, we find Jules right where we left him, across the street from the Cat's Paw. Hey, welcome back. What is it you need from Jules, my friend, he says. Know what happened to Mr. Wright's son, Jules, we can ask. Oh, Wright kid? Yeah, I heard about that. A damn shame. Kids his age shouldn't be doing chems. They got so much to live for without being given impure crap. What do you mean, impure crap, we can ask? And he shrugs. Some dealers don't care what they sell, and people die. Now, I ain't saying nothing, but I'd check with old Renesco the Rocket Man, see how good his stuff is. Reno's a big place, Jules. Anyone else who might be responsible? Lot of dealers in town. Little Jesus Mordino, maybe, he says. But why he would sell to a Wright don't make any sense. There's Jagged Jimmy J up on 2nd Street north of here, but he's small time. I'd still check with Renesco, though. You know anything about this empty jet canister, we can ask? And he glances at it. Like 100 others I've seen. It ain't mine, though. Could be Jagged Jimmy J's or Renesco's. Interesting that he doesn't notice the red scorpion poison on it, though. Is it because he just missed it? Or did he not want to point it out? Well, we've got a few more interviews to do. The Desperado is right up the road. Heading inside, we can talk with little Jesus Mordino, who's standing by the bar. Little Jesus picks his teeth with a dirty fingernail. Yeah? You heard anything about Richard Wright overdosing on Jet, we can ask? That little piss-ass Wright kid? Ha! You trying to pin that crap on me? You out of luck. I ain't sorry the little jerk's dead, but I didn't have nothing to do with it. Oh yeah, we can say? Well, the Mordinos are the biggest suppliers of Jet in New Reno. That makes you the first ones who are gonna take the blame. Yeah, so what if we take the blame? Don't mean we did it. Little jerk took too much. I ain't sorry he's dead, and if old man Wright starts throwing down, we'll bury him right next to his junkie kid. Well, if you didn't give it to him, do you know who sold Richard the jet that killed him, we can say? Yeah, says little Jesus. Renesco, the Rocket Man. Sells so much jet, he could shoot you to the moon. He's on the west side in Salvatore territory. He don't like the Wrights none, and his chems ain't pure, know what I'm saying? He can't be the only dealer in a town this size, we can say. And he says, no, there's others, but Renesco's the one who done it. What makes you say that, we can say? 'Cause he's a half-blind cracker with a mean streak a mile wide that sells bad crap. That's why. You go see him. You see what he says about the Wright kid, and then you'll see I'm right. Renesco, Jules, and Jagged Jimmy J. Got it. Thanks for the information. Well, we're picking up a common theme here. None of them admit to selling the jet to the Wright kid, and yet Renesco is the first person they all mention. Why is it they all think he's the most likely suspect? There's only one way to find out. Heading to the west side, we can step inside Renesco's pharmacy. Look, I'm a busy man, says Renesco, the Rocket Man. Did you sell jet to Richard Wright, we can ask? Don't you even try to pin that accusation on me. You want to know who did it? Ask Tweedledum and Tweedledummer if they're still selling jet laced with arsenic. Tweedledum and Tweedledummer? Who are they, we can ask? That vulture Jules and that lion reprobate Jagged Jimmy. Jules is always perched near the entrance to town, looking for ignorant visitors to victimize, and Jagged Jimmy deals on 2nd Street to the rest of the Reno cattle. They said to ask you, we can say. They said you sell bad chems. Chems that kill people. Look, primate, you don't even know what you're babbling about. Yeah? Well then why don't open your mouth again and even a whisper, even a hint reaches Mr. Wright that I or you might have had anything to do with that boy's OD, our lives ain't worth Brahmin crap. If that happens, now hold on if that happens, you tribal crap, I swear you'll die before I do. Now, for the last time, that kid never bought crap from me, understand? Don't you ever say his name in here again, or so help me. Jules said he didn't sell to the kid, we can say. Jimmy says he didn't sell to the kid. You say you didn't sell to him. Either you all are lying, or somebody else is responsible. I can answer that one easy, says Renesco. One of those two mongrels is lying to save their behind. Between the two, they sell 90% of the jet in Reno, and that's the only place the boy we're talking about could have gotten it from. Or somebody that bought from one of you three, we can say. Who were your customers last month who might have had contact with the victim? I have no idea, says Renesco. I didn't know the boy, so I don't know his friends or his habits. The only one who could tell you for sure is too busy being dead in Golgotha to tell you. Golgotha, we can ask. Golgotha, he says. Mass grave outside the town to the south. Follow the stench. The one other than your own. Well, can you tell me anything about this empty jet canister, we can ask? It's empty, says Renesco. It's a jet canister like the hundreds of others all over New Reno. Anything else I can help you with? Know anything about the rad scorpion venom traces that are in the canister, we can ask? Red scorpion? Renesco suddenly freezes, as if remembering something. You know something about it, don't you, we can ask. Whoa, now wait just a minute, says Renesco. Don't mess with me, Renesco. You try and weasel out of this one, and you'll be joining Richard. Understand? Says the Chosen One rather harshly. Wait a minute, says Renesco. Look, I didn't sell it to the kid. He never bought anything from me. I was asked to make some jet laced with rad scorpion venom, but I didn't sell it to the kid. You were asked to make poison jet? For who, we can ask? The Salvatores requested it. They said it was a special order. I didn't know they were going to give it to the right kid. You have to believe me. I don't poison kids. Why did you poison the jet? You had to know they were going to kill someone with it, we can ask. Look, the Salvatores own me, says Renesco. They own this place. And when they want something, I give it to them, or they'll kill me and have me replaced. I never meant any harm to that boy. Yeah, says the Chosen One. I'm sure you had the best of intentions while you were spiking that jet with poison. Goodbye, Renesco. Well, we solved the case. We don't have a motive. Why would the Salvatores want to kill Richard Wright? But at least we know who did it. Heading back to Orville, right? He says, you again. You find out who killed my boy? Now at this point, we can answer a number of ways. We could say, yeah, it was Jules, the dealer at the front of town. Or we can say Jag and Jimmy J, the dealer on 2nd Street. Or we can say, that old geezer, Renesco the Rocket Man. Or little Jesus Mordino, he deals jet. But all of these options lead to the death of an innocent person. Jag, Jimmy J, Jules, and Renesco will disappear from the game. And if we accuse little Jesus, we start a mob war between the Wrights and the Mordinos. And when we next step foot in the Desperado, everyone turns hostile. So instead, we'll tell him the truth. Your son didn't die of an overdose. He was poisoned. Poisoned? What in hell's name are you talking about? Now, there are two ways we could have gotten to this point. The first is, having found the jet canister in Richard's room, we can say, I found this jet canister that Richard used. Was used on Richard. There were traces of rad scorpion venom in the cartridge. Alternatively, if we found Richard's corpse in his grave in Golgotha, it's the one that had the body of a teenage boy inside when we dug it up in my video on Golgotha that you can watch here. If our intelligence and perception were high enough, we would have picked up a trace of rad scorpion venom, in which case we could have used that clue instead of the jet canister to track down all of these details. Either way, we come to the same conclusion. We can say that he was poisoned with rad scorpion venom. The jet overdose was just a cover for the poisoning. Assuming I believe this for a second, and I ain't saying I am, then who poisoned my son? And why did they go to the trouble of dosing him with jet? Now we have a couple of options here. We can tell him the truth by being as vague as possible, doing our best not to implicate Renesco. Word is it was the Salvatores, we can say. They pumped him with jet laced with rad scorpion venom, then left him for you to find. Or we can tell him the honest truth, running the risk that Orville right here won't be reasonable and will still blame Renesco for the poisoning. We can say, I don't know which of the Salvatores did it. Renesco doctored up some jet for them, not knowing they'd use it to poison your son. That bastard's seen his last days, says Orville Wright. Come morning, he'll be dead, but he'll be a long time dying. But Renesco didn't give Richard the jet, we can say. He didn't know who it was for. It was the Salvatores that poisoned your son. Now, why in the hell would they do that, says Orville Wright? And that's a good question. But the chosen one here is pretty bright. He pieces it all together. He says, way I see it, the Mordinos control the jet in Reno. Naturally, you'd blame them for a chem overdose, and there'd be a war. If you two didn't wipe each other out, you'd at least be weakened by the fight. That makes life easier for the Salvatores. All they have to worry about then is the bishops. Orville Wright stares at us for a long time. Then a dry chuckle escapes his lips. You gave me an answer, and I can't do nothing about it. The Salvatores. God damn it. And he takes a deep breath. You can't do anything about it, we can say? What do you mean? Know what those Salvatore bastards are armed with, friend? Those damn Lightbringers. One Salvatore packing that kind of heat can kill my whole family without batting an eye. To beat that, I'd need... What? We can ask. Well, now, before I get into specifics, let's settle accounts first. Here's a little cash for your trouble, plus some ammo, liquor from my private stock, and another job for you, if you're interested. I'm interested, says the chosen one. It so happens, continues Orville Wright, not too long ago I came across a map that shows an old army base in the mountains not far from here. You find a way in there, and I'll see that you're taken care of. Why should I go, we can ask? Didn't you send somebody already? Mr. Wright's expression tightens for a moment, then he snorts. Not exactly. The fellows I got the map from are dead. They were a tough bunch, but they all got wiped out trying to get inside the base. They didn't even get inside, we can say? Yeah, says Orville Wright. The only survivor said, shortly before his unfortunate death, said that there were some kind of super gun turrets guarding the entrance. Wiped out most of his boys. What happened to the survivor, we can ask? And he says, oh, old Sam Pritchard? Sad story. Got drunk one night, mentioned to my boy Keith he'd found this base. And before you know it, he draws me a map and dies. He's sleeping in Golgotha now. Oh, he drew a map and then mysteriously died. Okay, nothing suspicious about that. Seems like Reno's filled with sad stories these days, says the chosen one. I'll take the job. Orville Wright nods and smiles. All right then, come back when you found a way in, and I'll see you're well rewarded. Now, as for the location of the base, head north, then... And he gives us coordinates for the army base, which we promptly punch into our Pip-Boy. All right, we can say. I'll go check it out. When I find a way inside, I'll be back. But before we head out on this next mission, we still have to resolve things with his wife. We told her that we'd meet her outside the church. Heading that way, if we arrive at the agreed-upon time, we see Ethel walking down the sidewalk, and she stops just outside the door to Father Tully's. You see Mrs. Wright. She looks crushed. Ethel, says the chosen one. Are you okay? All true. Everything you said was true. She sighs. The still was not dismantled. Not at all. And she frowns. I trusted that man, but alcohol made him lie to me. Lie to his own wife. Now we could kick her when she's down like this and say, oh yes, Ethel, further proof of the evil of alcohol. It can make people do terrible things, especially when the twin devils of money and power are involved. Or we can let her vent. And she smolders. I will make him keep the promise he made. If I have to destroy that still with my own hands, then Orville and I shall have words. We'll see what that little weasel says then. The quickest way to get this done is to let Ethel take care of it herself. Good idea, we can say. Maybe you should go destroy the still. I will, by tarnation, she says, and she rolls up her sleeves. To our surprise, she has arms like a weightlifter. Thank you for opening my eyes, stranger. I'll put my husband back on the straight and narrow, even if it kills him. Well, says the chosen one, have fun storming the castle. Which, of course, is a reference to the Princess Bride.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle. Bye-bye.
With that, Ethel Wright marches off. We complete the quest and earn 500 experience. When we next visit the brewery beneath the train station, we see that it's empty. All the workers are gone. You see a large alcohol brewing vat. It is broken, and the damage looks irreparable. But if we are feeling chivalrous, we can say, no, let me handle it. It's beneath the train station, right? I'll take care of it. And she says, you'll destroy it? Well, all right. She builds up steam. Tear it down! Wreck it! Leave nothing! All right, we can say. But now, she says, I don't want you to hurt any of my children. No moving guns. They're not bad children. They've just been misled. I'll have to see what I can do to change that. Okay, we can say, don't worry, there'll be no casualties. But this proves to be a hard promise to fulfill. Heading back to the train station and going to the basement, we can use our repair or science skills on the stills to destroy them. But if we do, every child in the basement turns hostile. But if we're careful, or lucky, we learn that the vat grinds to a halt and it looks irreparable, and we gain 500 experience. We only have to do this to one of them. Incidentally, while we're here, and if we happen to have one, we can drop a rad scorpion tail into one of the vats. You drop it into the vat, and you watch it sink to the bottom, venom bleeding out of the poison sac. This act kills all of the drunkards in town, and for this deed we lose 30 karma. With the vats destroyed, we can head back to Ethel Wright outside the church. We see Ethel. As we approach, she looks up hopefully. Is it... I smashed it to the ground. Nothing left. All taken care of. And tears well up in her eyes. Thank you, stranger. You have dealt a blow here to the evil in New Reno. I don't know how to thank you. I'm a little light on cash, we can say. Then we can remedy that, she says. Follow me. We follow her. Here you go, she says. Everything in this locker is yours. Some money to help you on your travels, and a handy tool that I have found useful in pounding sense into the particularly mule-headed. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you, Mrs. Wright, we can say. And she walks off. Inspecting our inventory, we see that we have a few more caps, and we've got the Louisville Slugger. This all-American hardwood baseball bat will knock anything right out of the park. Minimum strength 4, it weighs 4 pounds. The Louisville Slugger is one of the best melee weapons in the game. It's the second best two-handed melee weapon, bested only by the Super Sledge. It deals between 12 and 30 damage and only consumes 3 points of AP. It has the weapon knockback effect, which can be useful in situations where you're being crowded, but when fighting only one opponent, it means you have to chase after them, which consumes even more AP. Now, we have to find a way into the Sierra Army base for Orville Wright. But we're out of time. We'll have to tackle the Army base in my next episode. I publish new Fallout videos each and every week on my channel, so if you don't want to miss my next episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have and you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I've got a brand new shirt in the shop, Lion's Pride. The Brotherhood does its best, but sometimes they need a little something special. That's where Lion's Pride comes in. This brand new design comes on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. You can find it on other products as well, like smartphone cases, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.